Hello, dear students. Today I am going to start another lecture about your subject protected cultivation. So, before this lockdown, this regular classes we have discussed about the types of brief introduction of greenhouse, types of greenhouse, this and microclimatic parameters of greenhouse, and brief description of all types of greenhouse shapes and size. So today another lecture after that is a planning of a greenhouse, site selection of a greenhouse, or orientation or plan and layout of this one. So apart from this climatic parameters, there are some non-climatic parameters also to be considered while construction of greenhouse structure. So basically ideal location for any greenhouse structure is always go for moderate climate where the high sunlight is feasible or available. The sunlight is the main prime factor here, because your photosynthesis purpose also this light is very much important here. And also the humidity range could be lower, or that means low humidity is always favorable for your greenhouse structure, but it's not necessary that where every time you will get the humidity low level, but there is some variation in the humidity that can be controlled in another mechanical method. Okay, also some good natural drainage system should be there while the construction of greenhouse. And what should be avoided, that area should not be a storm prone area should not be a storm prone area, or should not be high wind velocity and unnecessary wind breaks, and also shelter blades. This should not be available within the greenhouse structure. Okay, today we will discuss about the planning and site selection. Okay, here before construction of greenhouse structure you have to be considered that something comes in mind, that what size will be the greenhouse structure, and where will be the location, whether the location is okay or not, and which shape will be allowed. There are number of shapes we have already studied. There is this greenhouse structure. So which shape will be the feasible, that will be depend on your cultivation, which crop will be there, what is the purpose, whether it is nursery, whether it is your vegetable crops, whether it is cash crops. So depending on this one, that shapes also favorable. Also so cost of this greenhouse structure. Okay, based on the crops, this your cost of construction, that shape will be vary. Whether if it is a small investment, there will be shape will be different, or whether it is a single span or multi span, that will also depend on your investment. Okay, these things three parameters will be fine. And another simple thoughts, that is a basic thoughts comes in mind, that will they always go for greenhouse structure with a small structure, that means simple one. Because one, you may not know what will be the cost of production, what will be the investment, what will be the produces, whether it is up to the mark or not. So before, these are the difficulties may arise. So to avoid the difficulties, always start with the small one and get experienced and confidence built in you, then keeps on expansion just near the greenhouse structure. Okay, next, your selection of site. So we have already discussed the microclimatic parameters earlier classes, but we will see the another parameters. These parameters should be considered while construction. First is the topography. Topography is basically is your level of the land, also slope of the land, whether it is undulating or rough or smooth, and also width of the land, the greenhouse structure. So mostly your slope, coming to the slope, so mostly we always prefer the greenhouse structure is a level slope, level land, but slope is also somehow allowed. There is a very small amount. If it is a lengthwise, it is up to 2%. If it is a widthwise, it will be up to 2.5%. So we'll discuss in next slide. So, and one important parameter should be important. If any slope in the is present in the greenhouse structure where you are going to start, that land, the slope facing will be south facing, because there it will create a easy draining facilities of the water. Okay, next is a climatic condition. So that parameter also we have discussed in the earlier classes. So beside this, this humidity, temperature, rainfall, wind velocity, these are the parameters can be controlled or monitored within the structure. Another parameter, drain soil, well drained soil. The soil cannot be the soil may be basically good for this permeable soil, which is permeable soil, all well drained soil should be preferred. Next parameter is your shadow free. So there should not be any unnecessary tree, tall tree nearby the greenhouse structure which can create a shadow within the structure, because our focus is to increase the intensity. So that is why the tall tree nearby greenhouse cannot be allowed. Okay, but there may be some tree or windbreaks or shelter belts, but that should be a sufficient at a standard distance from the greenhouse structure. We will discuss later on. Actually there is some standard measurement where the trees can be allowed to grow. Okay, next is a windbreaks. Windbreaks in such another is a obstruction where the maximum wind velocity can be possible in some areas. Basically is your coastal area where the wind velocity is somehow high. So at that condition, to protect the structure, there is some windbreaks. Windbreaks is surrounding the greenhouse structure. The number of trees, tall trees, is planted that which can obstruct the wind velocity as well as the your structure. Next is your water. So very much important parameter within the structure is water, because our most of the structure required 100% irrigation facility throughout the year. That is a very important point here. So that is why water availability should be high or throughout the year. And also, and another parameter is your some of the greenhouse, that is a shade net or your shade house or net house, and the some irrigation can be possible during rainy season, but other structure like glass house, other is a poly house, that is not allowed the water inside the greenhouse. That is why irrigation within the structure is important. Okay, and also the quantity of water, quality of water, and the round the year, that three things to be considered. Quality should be high, quantity should be high, and you also round the year should be available. And future expansion, the earlier slide we have discussed, the always start with the small one. So if the your experiment or your your structure is okay, gives the good results, then you can expand in the next or next year for your uh, mm, for the structure. You can expand nearby the structure. That means there should be some provision for expansion. That is the main thing. And also electricity. So in the greenhouse structure, depending on the climatic condition, whether it may be too hot or too cold, or it may be too humid or very low humid, so these things can be regulated by mechanical device. If it is too hot, there will be some device to cool. If there is too cold, there should be some device to heat it up. Okay, also if it is too humid, there will be some ventilation and all, there will be some fan and all. So these parameters can be regulated by some mechanical device, where electricity is very much important here. Also for throughout the year, for irrigation purposes, you need to install some mechanical motor or devices or power pump as well, and this can be run by some power source. That is why throughout the year within the structure, electricity is very much important here. Also labor availability and inputs. See, this greenhouse is a very much sensitive structure, and your cultivation is with very much important or very much costly crops, vegetables and flower as well. So your continuous regulation is very much important within the structure. So for that, availability of skilled labor, the labor should be skillful, that he can know the everything to monitor the crops parameters and all. Also inputs in means there will be some easy transportation for transporting this agronomic seeds and all crops and all. Also also you can say that your uh, markets, then the nearby markets also. Also see this maintenance is concerned. So the inputs material which is used for construction of greenhouse, that should be cheap. Okay, cheap or easily available. But one another point is there, if you want to reduce the maintenance cost throughout the year, you always go for high price or high durable materials for use for construction. Next is your communication here, that whatever produces comes from the greenhouse structure, that should be consumed by your in the market. That means that can be easily sold to the market. So that's why there will be market availability will be there, and so the easy transportation, there should be a easy transportation from the production house to the market. Okay, this parameter you should give importance while selecting the site. Next is your factors determining the size. So what will be the size of the structure? So before that you have to understand that what will be your productivity, which crop will be there. So which crop should be selected, whether it is flowering or nursery, this one. So based on this your size will be depending on this one. And market facility, whether your nearby this structure market is facilities available or not. Based on this your structure will be depend. If the wholesale market, big market is there, you always go for the bigger construction. If it is a your selling is very much low, or nearby is there is no heavy market is there, so you should not be go for the bigger construction. Another is your types of business, whether it is wholesale purpose or retail purpose. Depending on this your size will be different. If it is wholesale purpose, bigger size will be there. If it is retail purpose, obviously it will be smaller size. So for Indian condition, some recommendation is that the 500 square meter for single person in case of retail business is sufficient. Another is for wholesale purpose, at least 1000 square meter unit is required. Okay. Next is orientation. So basically you see the your orientation means your direction of the greenhouse. So if it is single span or if it is multi span, that means the single structure or number of single structure attached within it, and it will create a multi span. So if it is a multi span, there is a chances of shadow formation within the greenhouse by the branches of structure or structural members. So that is why multi span greenhouse always give the better result in north south orientation. If it is this one, it is your east, it is your south, it is north, it is your west. Okay. If it is a multi span, that now north south is preferable, where there is a shadow formation will be reduces. If it is single span, then east west direction, single span east west layout is preferable, where maximum transmission can be feasible possible, or also the shadow formation is also minimized, or minimum shadow formation is there. East west orientation gives better light transmission. See, east west transmission gives better as, because sun rise from east and set as to the west, so there is a direction. This way the sun direct movement is there, ray direction movement is there. That is why if the east west direction, there is a less shadow formation. Also single span structure provide better lights level than multi span. Okay. Okay, next is orientation. Normally the greenhouse structure is like this one. This is your greenhouse structure, this is your vertical axis. So normally a freestanding greenhouse should have its long axis perpendicular to the wind direction. Okay, if it is a wind direction, this one, it should be that vertical axis should be perpendicular, there should not be any alignment or leaning, so that should be considered. Okay. And when snow is expected in some areas, not in this northeast or Indian condition, or northern part of the India, they are having some snow expectation. So in that area the tree should be 30.5 meter away. Okay, that is a standard recommendation. And also to prevent the shadow trees located east, south and west, uh, it should be at a distance of 2.5 times their height. Why? Say this is the your vertical height. If it is 10, if it is 10 meter, so that tree which can create shadow, it should be at a distance of 2.5 times, that means your 25 meter. So that is the recommended distance of trees or any tall trees from the greenhouse structure which cannot create shadow. That is the standard distance of this structure trees. Okay, next is your greenhouse orientation. This is overall of this one. So here solar radiation, too much solar radiation will be there, there should not be any obstruction in solar radiation or in light intensity. And also winds, if it is too much wind velocity is there, obstruction should be there, that means wind brakes should is required. If it is not, it should not require the wind brakes. Single span east west orientation gives the better result. Multi span this your north south orientation is gives a better result. This structure is a multi span, so this is a northwest, this north south, this is a single span east west direction is the good one. Okay. vent opening should be east side. Some opening for this ventilation purpose, it should be in east side. Okay, now come to the slope. See, 0 to 2% from lengthwise. If it is a greenhouse, here you see this is a length, this is your width. So in lengthwise the slope should be 2%, widthwise it should be up to 2.5%. that means see, this is your vertical line, that widthwise that sloping can be feasible, that much sloping can be feasible. Okay, for this your easy draining of the water, and also your ventilation purpose as well. If it is a length size, this is length, so 2% is feasible. Okay, this is the, and clear. So now maximum width of greenhouse can be 40 meter width. There is some limitation. 40 meter width of greenhouse gives better result for circulation. Okay, okay, fine. And this is all about a layout. So this is your main structure, this okay, this is your greenhouse, production house, this is your sales area, some zone is there. So come to the next slide, there will be some, it will be more clear to you. Here these are the zone is there. One is your head house, where the monitoring of this one greenhouse is workplace is going on. Next is service alley, there is some pathway, storage receiving area, sales area, customer area, production area. So here the workplace called the head house should not be located on the north of the production house. That means north of the production area to avoid shading. So production area means where the greenhouse cultivation is there. So that is why head house should not be in the north. Sorry, should be in the located in the north south, because it should not be in the east south. It can create a shadow to the production house. Remember, west to sales area and storage receiving area should be separate. So there will be two way. One is directly go to the service area, another is go for the customer area. That is to another way. And also customer should not be allowed to the main production house, that is restricted area, also called that production area is also isolation area. Only the workers can move within the structure. Okay, and also windbreak should be at least 30 meter on the north and west from the facility. Okay, windbreaks north and west, that means if you north or west, so windbreak can be possible in this zone, not this zone. Okay, that zone wind cannot be allowed because it can create a shadow. Okay, so there are three types of roads can be possible in the nearby the greenhouse, and if the three types of roads is there, what will be, how will be the structure? Go to the next slide. See the first condition, layout of greenhouse when the road is located on the east side. See, this is the east side road, and I have already told that production house is isolation area where one cannot be no one can allowed within the production house, is sensitive as well. So this 3 is your production area, is far away from the road, far away from the road. Also there is no relation between customer area, this one. Okay, this is a head house where the monitoring and all this regulation can be done here. And this is customer area, the sales area. This another route, two route, this for customer and this for service purpose. This is the worker and all the service, for the servicing like your water purposes, electricity purposes, other anything installation inputs and all will be done here. Okay, see, remember this layout. Roadside in east, this is the structure. Come to the roadside in the south. If you roadside south, see the difference here. Customer area, the first one, customer and sales. Here the service alley and service zone. Here the head house also in the which side? North side. Okay, these three are the your production area. This is totally isolation, there is no link in this one. Here the area again say windbreak in the north and west side, not in the this way. Okay, the third last one you see, and the road on the north side. If the road in this side, what will be the layout? See, again these three are the production area, isolation area, and two road. One is your customer, for another is your service. This is for inside worker. So customer will come go this way, customer, sales and head house. Head house is a monitoring of this one. Here See, this is a road, so there is not need not any windbreak, but west side is required windbreak. Okay, the give importance on the layout, if because they are similar, but only the difference is the pathway and direction of windbreaks. Okay, this is all about your layout. If any problems, any queries, any doubts within about these layouts and site selection, you can ask me in this classroom section or WhatsApp group. I will upload this video to your groups. Okay, thank you.